Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed your break. So now we're going to have Miss Qatar. Revati Qatar is a versatile and passionate dancer and a choreographer. She is part of a dance crew, and currently she is an AES teacher. She's going to be talking about the importance of dance in our lives.
Thank you for having me here. I clearly remember my first dance show. A diminutive figure, twirling and whirling on an empty stage, gyrating instinctively to the music in her head. The little dancer did not seem to have a lot of technique, but her immense energy and enthusiasm more than compensated for her lack of training. She had but an audience of one, and a stage was her dressing closet. Yes, you guessed it right. It was me watching myself in the mirror, preparing for my show in the evening. The show had prepared for my aunts and uncles who were coming home for dinner that night. I was hoping to generate an applause for my efforts, but they even delighted me by paying a small ticket fee for watching this original piece of choreography. What started off as an area of interest and hobby started taking over all my spare time. I soon outgrew the dressing closet and wanted to spread my wings further. Somewhere along my journey, dance got left behind as the nuances of teenage years started taking over. Many of you here would relate to me when I say that my teenage years were not a bed of roses. Things as little as people who I considered my closest friends would walk away from me when all I wanted to do was share my lunch would be enough to bring me down. The current me looking back at my teenage self feels how little those things were, and even without realizing at that point how much the return of dance actually uplifted me in my life. As I was facing the brunt of bullying and school years were becoming harder, dance came to me serendipitously. Never knowing at that point how much happiness, confidence, and strength it gave me, I kept dancing along. Dance movement therapy is gaining a lot of popularity as a field of study now, but everything doesn't have to be termed. Unknowingly, at that point, dance helped me know myself better and even gain confidence in various walks of life. I realized that you can take the little girl out of the closet, but you can't take dance out of the little girl. I found dance in the way I walk. I found dance in the way I talk. I found dance under the rain. I found dance in the way I enter the room. I found dance in the policeman gesturing right or left. I found dance on the streets. And soon I realized that dance is everywhere. Music aids dance, but we don't always need music to dance. I realized that dance never got left behind. You might not even know, you might not even realize, but somewhere, somehow, there is movement in your life, there is dance in your life. Many of you might have heard of the term bathroom singers. Let's all of us today coin the term bathroom dancers. I hope I haven't inspired all of you to go back home today and literally break a leg in your shower. Or I hope I have. There are so many fields of studies in this world which teach us about so many different things. But in this whole wide world, there is you. And what teaches you about you? That is where dance waltz in. I feel dance is as important as any other part of education. It doesn't only help us move, but it helps us gain numerous other life skills. In these past few years of teaching, one of the most satisfying and wonderful things is to see your students grow through dance. I have seen my students know themselves better, walk into other classrooms with a more open mindset, gain confidence to try new things. It's beautiful to see and feel the exciting jitters before getting on stage and the high post the performance. The joy and happiness dance brings to the ones you share it with is an incomparable feeling. So since all of us are here today, and I feel that dance is for everyone, so let's do a small activity. And so can I request you all to just stand up wherever you are? Okay, so all of us together will make a dance here from the very basic things that we do in life. I want you to just think for a moment, what is the first thing you do when you enter a car? Just think for a second. What's the first thing you do when you enter a car? And so on the count of 8, I want you all to say it together, the first thing you do when you enter a car. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I heard, no. Okay, let's try this time. So we'll not say anything now, but we'll do an action of what we said. We'll do the action of the same thing we just said right now. So on the count of 8 again. 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. Lot of things, lot of different things. I'm going to pick up someone over there did this. I think it's the action of putting a seat belt. And I like to name this step buckle it. So all of us will do buckle it together, yeah? 5, 6, 7, go. And buckle it. 2, other side. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. Okay, second task. I want you to think of the action when you get out of a shower and you're wiping your back. So what would be the action for that? And on the count of 8, all of us will do that action together. How do you wipe your back when you get out of the shower? 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. I see almost everyone doing this. So we'll add a little more movement to it and we'll call it shimmy. And we all will do it together. So 5, 6, 7, go. And a shimmy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. You guys are doing great. Okay, last one. I promise this is the last one. So I don't know how many of you clean your windows. If you don't, you can just imagine if you're cleaning a window, what would you do or what would the action be? So next action is of cleaning a window. How do you clean a window? And on the count of 8, 5, 6, 7, go. Nice. I almost see people waving at me. But yeah, okay, cleaning a window. So a window in Hindi is called khidki. And I'd like to name the step khidki. Yeah? So let's try khidki. 5, 6, 7, go. And a khidki. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. Now can we join all the 3 steps together? Are we ready for it? Yeah? Okay. Let's join all the 3 steps together. 5, 6, 7, go. And a buckle it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a shimmy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a khidki. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once again. And buckle it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a shimmy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a khidki. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. Clap for yourself, guys. You all can sit if you want. So anyone in the audience would like to volunteer and tell me about how they felt or what they gained from this activity? Anyone? Anyone who'd like to volunteer and share the experience of this activity? Okay, no one. So So I'll ask you questions. Okay, nice. So I'll ask a question to all of you now. How many of you actually felt more connected to me or to someone standing next to you, or felt that your mind was working more, or you felt more energized, or you feel happier? Any of those things, raise your hand if you felt any of those things. That, very nice. That is what I'm trying to convey, that dance is for everyone. Thank you for becoming a part of the activity. Continuing where I left, I feel everyone has a different set of challenges, and one of my challenge in life has been quick decision making. Now you must be wondering how dance and decision making are correlated. Let me tell you now, they're not. Or a little bit they are, or they're not. You clearly see I'm unable to make a decision over here. But my want to learn and grow through dance has pushed me to create more opportunities for myself, and even pushed me to make quick decisions. Coming from a family who always has your back, putting myself in uncomfortable situations has been another one of my challenges. But I always saw my desires outweighing my comfort, and each day I pushed myself to move a little closer towards my dream. Traveling to one of the biggest cosmopolitans in the world, New York, and dancing with people around over there, I realized that dance transcends language. Next, I found myself in the smallest town of France doing aerial dance courses in French, which was literally French to me. But that ended up being one of my most loved classes, and where I ended up making meaningful and long lasting relationships. I feel my want to dance and move goes hand in hand with my want to travel and explore more. I feel dancing and traveling both enable you to find yourself and lose yourself at the same time. There's a small poem I've written about dance, and here it goes. Dance is for me, dance is for you. Every time you dance, there is something new. Taking care of health, taking care of groove. You can socialize while dancing or stay aloof. It works the mind, it boosts the mood. It's all expression, fun, and movement, and no use of words that are rude. For all that it is for me, I will never miss a chance to dance. And as Keating says, and if you get a chance to sit out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you take a chance. I hope you fly to new places. I hope you leave traces. I hope you see pleasant faces. I hope you run in your races. And if you find yourself falling, you find yourself crawling. Don't get stuck in the vibe. Because if you didn't question the highs, why should we question our cries? But why should we question our whys? It is important what we do, but it's also important why we do it. Our intentions drive our actions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, to break things in fractions. Have you asked yourself recently if you're doing the things you love in your life? Have you stopped for a moment and checked that where you are is where you want to be? When you question things, when you ask why, it can move you in new directions, making things even more beautiful than before. Fear stops a lot of people from asking why. Don't let that fear grow. Keep that child inside you alive. And for your own happiness, growth, healthy mind, honest relationships, new ideas, ask why. But when you feel it, you really, really feel it, drop that why and dance with the waves, move with the sea. Because there is not a more beautiful feeling than when the rhythm of life sets your soul free.
Sure. Our next speaker is Jatin Modi. He is currently working on his fourth venture, Frog Ideas, one of India's foremost marketing uh, companies. And he's also a Stanford graduate, so let's hear it for him.
We've all gathered here to discuss the question of purpose. And most people believe that the purpose of life is to find happiness. And if you ask most people how they can find happiness, everybody will have a different definition. Somebody will say that if I make a lot of money, I will be happy. Somebody will say that if I travel a lot, I feel satiated. Somebody will say only if I had that particular car, I will feel happy. So everybody has their own definitions. The problem is that none of these definitions really make people happy. In fact, a Harvard professor once conducted a study of 2,000 millionaires. Each of the people had more than $1 million in wealth. Some of them were $50 million, $100 million. And he asked them a very, very simple question. He said, what is going to make you happy? And the answer he got was that only if I had 2 to 3 times the amount of money I currently have, I'm going to become happy. Now, these were millionaires who thought this way. Us mere mortals, we have our own problems. So now we really need to ask this question that have we created the right model? I'm a marketeer, so we have created this model where we are selling to people and we are telling them that what will make you happy is to be more successful, is to have more money, is to have a bigger flat, an apartment, a bigger house, a bigger car. And till the time you have that, till the time your face is not plastered onto every newspaper in the country, you will not be successful. And therefore, we start striving, we start working hard. We work hard to get good grades, we work hard to get, a bigger promotion, to make more money, but it doesn't work. So I'd like to present what this model represents, is that of a pyramid. And till the time you get to the top of the pyramid, you never really feel satisfied. You always look at somebody else and you say, oh, that guy, he must be happy. But I'm not. I can't be. So you keep striving, you keep striving, you keep striving. Until the time you get to the top and you can look down on people, you believe that this is not going to work till that time. Now, the problem with the pyramid is that for somebody to win, somebody has to lose. Fundamentally, it's an exploitative model. We have to be above and bigger and better than somebody else. So, I want to, through this talk today, present to you an alternate model. I want to present a model which I believe can work. And this talk is not about me. It's about you. So, let's see if we can do that. I was caught up in this model of the pyramid as well. I almost dropped out of school at the age of 19. I started a business. I wanted to be successful. I wanted everybody to know me. My first business failed. I was a little disappointed, but I thought, it's just a coincidence that something did not work out. Let me start another business. So I started my second business. Now, unfortunately, due to a variety of reasons, this business also did not work. So by the age of 23, I had flunked two businesses. My self-confidence was pretty much zero. I thought that nobody respected me. I thought that I was up to no good. My self-worth was completely down in the dumps. This started playing with my mind. I was anxious. I was really, really stressed. I think for 6 months I did not leave my room. My family started being scared that they didn't know what I was trying to do. There were all kinds of problems that were happening during that time. And honestly, I did not know what could make me come out of that room as well. It was a very dark period. Anyway, somehow, through some miracles, I finally mustered the final gust of courage and managed to come out of that room and start a third company, which was selling health supplements. And fortunately, this started doing extremely well, and a much larger player acquired this particular company. Now, for any businessman, an exit means paradise. It means that you have finally arrived. And the same happened with me. I thought I had arrived. My name started to be printed in the newspapers. I believed people started to look at me with completely different eyes. And I thought that this is all that I wanted. But then I started questioning, what next? Is this really satiating me? And really, I did not have any answer. So I started searching. I started searching for a model. As a business man, you always are looking for some kind of a model which works. And I'm a technologist, so we look for technology which can be used by anyone for joyfulness. That's what I was on the lookout for. And my lookout took me to many, many countries. I went to South America, I went to Europe. I looked at models of the East in China. Of course, in India as well, we have a very well-documented long history of people documenting how to be happy. I was also born in an extremely religious family. So, my exposure right in my childhood was to extremely ascetic monks. Now, when you look at any of these monks, and maybe you've looked at them as well, they look extremely peaceful, happy, calm, satisfied. And I used to look at them, I used to find them extremely inspirational. But I knew that this was not my path. I did not want to be a monk. What I wanted to do was be in this world and yet find a technology which could make me joyful. And I could not find any answers anywhere. So eventually, through a lot of these travels, studying of cultures, reading of books, I went around here and there, and eventually I landed up at the footsteps of a wise man. Like in any other story, there is a wise man here. And this wise man asked me how I was investing my time. And when I told him that I was trying to climb the pyramid, but really it's not satisfying my heart. My heart still feels empty. So he said to me, I don't know, maybe you've seen in India, there's the Great Indian Head Bob. Have you seen it? The Great Indian Head Bob. Whenever you see someone wise, they typically, and you ask them a question, they will never give you a straight answer. They will basically start moving their head like that. So you ask them, how can I be happy? Like, you really can't understand what they mean by that. So is that a yes or no? Can you give me an answer really? Like just saying this. So anyway, eventually after a lot of pursuit, he started to give me some answers. And he said that essentially there are 4 areas of life. And what I was investing in was only the physical aspect of life, which was how I look, how much money I have, and so on. So what I want to present to you is an alternate model of thinking about how your life can be. This model is that of a mandala. Now in a mandala, there are 4 aspects. You're right at the center of this mandala. And there are 4 aspects which are equally important. There is the physical aspect, which you already know, which is how your interaction is with the world, with respect to economics, with respect to where you stay, and so on. But then there is also the mental aspect, is that, can you really be present when somebody is saying something important to you? Can you feel joy in the smaller things of life? Then there is the emotional aspect. Can you find, the ability to serve another? Can you find the ability to relate with somebody at an emotional level? And the fourth is the spiritual aspect, which is, does your spirit feel alive? Does your heart sing? Now, the problem with this is that when I say these words, it sounds like a lot of voodoo, and it's very difficult to explain it in a way which completely makes sense unless you try it. It's like trying to explain honey, to somebody who's never tasted it. All you can say is that it's sweet. You can say it's like sugar, but it's not really sugar. So, we'll come to what you can do in order to taste this. Now, when I understood all of these four aspects, I tried to start experimenting in my own life. So I adopted the practices of yoga and meditation. When I first tried to start with yoga and meditation, I thought this was completely for old people, not for me, not for young people. But eventually, in some way, I started doing this, and over a few years, I started realizing that all these four aspects of my life started to become very, very balanced. And what started happening after that was astonishing. I lost 10 kgs. I looked and felt fitter than ever. The relationships with people close to me started reaching very, very warm heights. People at work started to like coming to work with me. Whereas earlier, they would feel that I'm a businessman who only cares about money. These results were so astonishing that I believed and I wanted to take these messages out to people so that living in this world, we can find a technology for happiness. So, I was thinking what I can call something like this. And I read a New York Times article where in New York, there is the practice of broga, which is very popular. Have you heard of broga? Broga is yoga for brothers. And then there is also doga, which is yoga for, it, right? Yoga for dogs. So I thought maybe I should call this Voga, which is people of the world doing yoga, or Boga, which is, business people who are doing yoga. But eventually, it's not about yoga. It's about the practice of being able to balance all these four aspects. What can you do in order to balance these things? While I was at Stanford, I interacted with some very successful business entrepreneurs. And in further interactions with them, what I realized was that while they're extremely successful, what makes them not sleep at night, and in fact, there was a guy running a $40 million business, and he started, over drinks, he broke down, and he said, all I really want is to be able to see my daughter sleep and to wake up in the morning, but I have no time for that. So that's the balance that we need to think about. So what can you do in order to bring balance in your life? For the physical aspect, what I would suggest is that start exercising and start building a skill which you're extremely passionate about. This skill, but do it in a deliberate manner. On the mental aspect, practice the art of mindfulness. There are apps on the iPhone now which you can download, apps such as Mindspace, and you can start the practice of mindfulness in just being able to observe and hear your breath for 10 minutes a day. That's all it needs. On the emotional aspect, I would highly recommend the practice of giving. Start volunteering some time at a local NGO or with your money, but in a deliberate fashion. And on the spiritual aspect, it's a very difficult one, but what I would say is start the practice of appreciation. Appreciate things which are bigger than you, such as the nature, such as the sun, such as the water. And like I said earlier, this might sound a little voodoo, but unless you practice it, it's very difficult to realize what honey is really like. So eventually, what I would like to leave you with is that imagine, the next generation of children who are going to come out and study in American school. Now, don't we want to leave them a future in which people are more calm, more balanced, more joyful, where we don't have to exploit the environment in order to find joy for us, where we don't have to breathe the kind of air that we currently have to breathe? Wouldn't it be wonderful if people are not only thinking about monetary aspects of life, but living a more well-balanced, successful life? And that becomes the definition of success. And those are the people who are called in and featured on newspapers and in magazines and on TV. But for that, what you have to do is start with yourself. So I would ask you to join me in this journey and hope that it really works out for the best for you. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Arushi Singh, a senior from here at AES. She will be talking about conspiracy theories, what they are, why people believe in them, and if there's any intellectual value to them. Thank you.
Vaccines don't work. The Earth is flat. The moon landing wasn't real because the moon is actually a hologram. No, I'm just kidding. Or am I? In any case, the ideas I just laid out before you are conspiracy theories. Theories about a conspiracy that a group of people is orchestrating against the unwitting public. This group is almost always extremely powerful, such as a massive multinational corporation or the government itself. But when I mention conspiracy theorists, one may most commonly envision someone like this. Some middle-aged, sleep-deprived adults living in their mom's basement with a tinfoil hat on their head that they call their intergalactic space helmet to stop the government from controlling their thoughts. However, this stereotype has been disproven. According to recent polls, at least 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. 28% of Americans believe that a secret, mysterious elite power, such as the Illuminati, is plotting a new world order. 21% of Americans believe that the government is hiding aliens from the public. And 14% of Americans believe in Bigfoot. The first question this leads me to is, why do people believe in conspiracy theories? Well, conspiracy theories are often formed as a way for people to cope with sudden and unsettling events. For example, plane crashes, terrorist attacks, mass shootings, the deaths of prominent and important individuals, and so on. In the face of unexplained occurrences and confused hysteria, people look for psychological relief. They look for answers, for ways to process things, and bring some order to these frightening and unforeseen events. Hardcore conspiracy theories that are less substantiated are adopted by people with an extent of paranoia who believe the government is out to get them and similar beliefs. For example, the conspiracy theory that the medical industry has found the cure to cancer but is keeping it hidden to make a profit off of chemotherapy and other less effective, more expensive cancer treatments. It's sinister, it's sensational, but it's unlikely. More reasonable conspiracy theories rely, as I mentioned, on a need for explanation. For example, UFO sightings, or extraterrestrial encounters, or strange lights in the sky. As humans, we're uncomfortable with admitting when we simply don't know something. So, we'll attribute it to something otherworldly or something supernatural. But all conspiracy theories share a foundation, and this is what I want to focus on. Because the thinking process that goes into constructing and believing these conspiracy theories is really quite remarkable. Let's say you're beginning to think like a conspiracy theorist. How does that process work? Well, in order to accept some of these ideas, you must detach yourself from the conventional way of thinking. So, you begin by viewing mainstream information with skepticism, a distrust for powerful organizations, ones that have more power than the general public, that know more than the general public, that decide what the public need to know because of the hierarchy that comes along with any form of civilization. You begin to think about the amount of power that certain phenomena have in our world. For example, the role that materialism plays in our society. Money, objects, sex, and brands. Egos, and the way people think of themselves. All marketing is based on fear and compulsion to drive people to do things. Our metropolitan lives are filled with billboards and advertisements that make us think we're occupied, but only superficially. Our lives are so fast-paced and so punctuated with pop and celebrity culture, with social obligations, with studies and work and assignments, that we barely get to develop the scope to think of the bigger picture, the system that we're a part of. Our ultimate goal in life is to lead a successful life for ourselves and fulfill the need of our loved ones. Our lives go by striving for this success. So, we never stop to think about the times when these deranged conspiracy theorists were right. For example, the conspiracy theory that the government is actively trying to control your mind. Surely this is one of the more outrageous conspiracy theories based on nothing but paranoia and speculation. And the very real Project MK Ultra. Project MK Ultra was a mind control program undertaken by the CIA, starting in 1953 and ending in 1973, which is when most of the project's files were destroyed. This super secret illegal operation subjected both knowing and unknowing victims to excruciating mind-altering drugs in the hopes of controlling human behavior, weakening self-control, and forcing people such as secret Russian spies into confession. Or conspiracy theories about Adolf Hitler. Surely this man was the personification of pure evil, who, according to many, deserved to die a horrible death. Except, we no longer know if he did. After Hitler took a cyanide pill in his bunker in Berlin in 1945, most of his cremated remains were dumped in a river in East Germany. However, parts of his skull were preserved by Soviet intelligence. In 2009, though, American researchers managed to demonstrate that the skull actually belonged to a woman between the ages of 20 and 40. Even though further tests were conducted by French researchers that suggested that some of the remains could be Hitler's, none of those DNA samples were accepted because no DNA samples unquestionably belonging to Hitler actually exist. With no other evidence to go by, the world is still essentially in the dark about what happened to Hitler. He could have just as easily escaped to Antarctica in a submarine or escaped with a woman to start a new life in Chile. In such way, these theories aren't completely unfeasible. But there is a recurring pattern that emerges. A sense of distrust for power, a plausible explanation, and a sense of skepticism. An alternative train of thought where one detaches oneself from the knowledge that is accepted and analyzes it beyond what meets the eye. In today's day and age, this skill can be extremely valuable. In a time when information is more accessible than ever, we must choose whom to trust. Do we go to million-dollar mass publication organizations
that care about nothing but clicks and profit, that sensationalize inaccurate news because it gives them more audience engagement? Or do we go to the internet, where almost anybody can pass off their opinion as fact, where there is an endless supply of information, alongside a notable lack of accountability and credibility? If we do go by this idea, this definition, that conspiracy theorists are essentially free thinkers, then a lot of us are conspiracy theorists. We share a lot in common with them if we value having open thoughts, open minds, and open discussions. The difference is that we are not ostracized and subjected to regular ridicule. Indeed, many take a huge social risk when they announce that they're a conspiracy theorist, or just that they're exploring alternative trains of thought. Even if you believe that the distrust for institutions that some of these conspiracy theorists are espousing is harmful, stigmatization cannot be the answer. A theory should not be dismissed purely because it is labeled as a conspiracy theory, and people should not be discredited purely because they're called conspiracy theorists. Individual ideas are surely more valuable than their categorization. Each idea and way of thinking is unique, and sometimes, as we have seen today, it may lead to the truth. I don't know if I can be called a conspiracy theorist or not. I know only that I'm an individualist, a counterculturalist, and I hope I've helped you view some things in a different light today, with an open mind and without social stigma. Because the sole phenomenon that attracted me to conspiracy theories years ago was their ostracization. Here is what I have come to discover. There is enormous intellectual potential in the world of conspiracy theories, even though this potential is often undermined by paranoia or controversy. Regardless of whether or not you buy the idea that the Earth is flat, or the moon landing was a hoax, or we all live in a giant computer simulation controlled by omnipotent aliens, the amount of thought that goes into the construction and acceptance of these conspiracy theories is admirable. You could call them crazy, or you could call them thinkers that are not bound by predefined trains of thought. I say we let them venture out, create a world of their own, create their own paths, and see where it leads them. Thank you.
Now we will be presenting Karan Gill, a senior at AES. He will be talking about the extraordinary circumstances of human race.
Good evening, everyone. So to start off, I want to make you aware of your ability to be present here and the reason you were able to arrive at this theater in the first place. That reason is you're a Homo sapien. You're an intelligent being that's aware of itself. Now, there are no Neanderthals walking through that door. There's a reason why we're the only human species that's alive and operating in this world today. Now, most people can piece together that we came from some, monkey humanoid version of us that was replaced by a superior species and so on, like, this common depiction suggests. And that's not entirely true. You know, the reality is that several human species coexisted with us. So the logical reason you're here today is that we conquered all of our human contemporaries. But how? Given more thought, you'll realize how unlikely our existence is. I mean, consider this. Let's say you take me, by the way, I'm 6'3". Let's say you face me, one-on-one, a fight to the death with a mammoth. Now, show of hands, be completely honest, who thinks that I would win? Okay, we got one, thank you. What about me versus a gorilla, or perhaps a lion or a Neanderthal? So, I mean, I appreciate you all believing in me, but you're somewhat justified. I would lose all of those fights, but for a reason. Homo sapiens weren't the most muscular, they weren't the best adapted to cold, they weren't the best foragers. In fact, they were pretty much faceless creatures in the food chain for hundreds of thousands of years up until very recently. If we're weak as individuals, what empowers us as a race? The answer to this question, you know, is something that occurred. It's extraordinary. It's something that occurred 70,000 years ago. That it's amazing. It occurred 70,000 years ago, and it's a small but revolutionary cognitive leap that granted us unprecedented power. Once we gained this power, you know, we destroyed everything in our path. Every behemoth we encountered, we wiped off the face of the earth, including other humans, to whom just thousands of years before, we would cower in fear. So what was this great power, and what was this grand revolution? Before I answer this question, I need to acknowledge a brilliant thinker of our generation who inspired this TED Talk. His name is Yuval Noah Harari, author of bestseller *Sapiens*, which you may have heard of, and this book details, you know, the unique history of Homo sapiens. In this presentation, I'll outline the source of our world dominance and, you know, the directions that it can take us. So our story begins about 2.5 million years ago in Africa, where the genus Homo first appeared. So these archaic humans dispersed, settling Africa, you know, the Middle East, Eurasia, and eventually North America. So each geography that was presented to humans, you know, nature evolved us as per what it demanded from us. So that's how we, you know, branched into multiple species. As per Darwin's theory of natural selection, we can reason that Homo sapiens need to acquire evolutionary traits that gave us survival advantages. Now, some people would attribute our success to the innovation of stone tools and the conquering of fire, but then multiple human species had these technologies available to them. So what was special about us? It turns out we're the only surviving human species today because we have the ability to make up stuff and have everyone believe in it. Really. This is amazing to me. It's certainly not intuitive. I'll illustrate this with an example. Now, that's a familiar figure right there. President Trump. President Trump is an American. You know, in America, it's generally commendable to be a patriot, which certainly Mr. Trump is, and he believes in, you know, national affairs. He, you know, adheres to federal laws. Yet there's no evidence, there's no geographical evidence for the actual existence of his homeland called the United States. In fact, America is just an imaginary line on the map whose existence has been asserted to us by some authority who we believe in, so we've accepted it as universal truth. But the myth of the United States facilitated the cooperation of millions of Americans. Millions of Americans can work in partnership with Mr. Trump because they believe in the entities and the systems that constitute the USA. And this is why you and I are here today. I'll refer back to my one-on-one example. We already established that I would lose to a Neanderthal in a one-on-one fight to the death. But if you united 1,000 sapiens who believe in defending their forest, let's say, versus 1,000 Neanderthals who can't unite to save their lives, quite literally, then the Neanderthals don't stand a chance. And that's how Homo sapiens came to dominate the world. By about 10,000 BC, we had, transcended the food chain, and we had outlived every human species that ever existed on this planet. And this only sprouted from one cognitive ability. We use our mitts every day today. They've merged with our sense of reality. In today's era, we use our powers to unite billions within the philosophy that science and technology will make our lives better. But is the cognitive revolution enough to take us to the future? Will what brought us here take us there? Now, today we're living in an extraordinary circumstance, and it's incredible. We're living in a period of rapid growth, innovation, and production. When I was reading *Sapiens*, I realized that this is the extraordinary circumstance of humanity. I looked at my own life and noticed that how quickly it was changing. I witnessed the transition from a flip phone to a self-driving car. When I was young, my brother used to have a laptop. It was pretty thick, but it had the ability to run video games and listen to music, and you could browse the internet as well. And when I was young, it was just a marvel to me how this machine could work. Well, my point is that we're changing rapidly. We're changing really, really, really fast. The nature of our existence is extremely volatile. It's the product of intelligent design, the human mind, not natural law. And this is why our future is so difficult to predict and adapt to. There are two emerging forces of this era that are changing our ability to think and work. One concept is AI, artificial intelligence. So what we're doing with AI is essentially outsourcing our decision-making, analytical, and communicative skills to robots. Now, this chart shows a list of jobs that are going to be replaced by AI in the near future. Now, if you look, there are some notable examples, like, for example, teaching, healthcare, and customer service. Jobs that you would think have a human element to them. But can a robot understand the problem with your broken iPhone? Can a robot understand your complex medical history? The terrifying reality is that not only are robots on par with humans, they're actually exceeding them. Recently, an AI doctor developed by Babylon Health, a digital healthcare startup, beat actual human doctors on an exam designed to test diagnostic abilities. Now, if you while this machine is only suitable for medical advice, it's on the verge of diagnosing diseases and even prescribing medicines. If you pair this machine with, let's say, biometric sensor implants that monitor your bodily functions, we're looking at an all-available robot machine that has impeccable medical advice. Now, some people are even considering, replacing teachers. China has been testing AI teachers whose algorithms replace standard lectures with personalized tutoring. One student actually reported that when utilizing these ultra-specific lessons, he actually improved test scores and allowed college admittance. And reliance on AI will only increase in the future. But if our cognitive abilities are transferred to machines, we already know what powers they granted us. Now, I'm not saying that robots will take over the future, but we're toying with the same capability of unifying an army, but this time with immortal machines. And who knows what outcomes will occur from that. Not only are we revolutionizing our mental capability with AI, we're also changing the fundamental biology of organisms. Now, I want everyone to imagine that you're a superhero and you can have any superpower you want, any combination, just whatever. So for me, I would probably take Tony Stark's intelligence, Spider-Man's web slashing, Hulk's body, and probably Thor's hammer, and obviously Morgan Freeman's voice. But the relevance of this example is that we're doing just that with biotechnology and genetic engineering. We can grow crops in space, have long-lasting fruit. We can develop seeds that are resistant to disease. We're engineering pigs that have a gene that produces bacon with healthy fats. Lab engineering mosquitoes are being released into the wild to limit the spread of Zika. So these biotechnology creations produce unprecedented advantages for human health, human nutrition, and productivity. Yet these examples just constitute a speck of our potential in genetics. We're bending biology to our whim and fancy, transcending natural law. And the emergence of AI and the advancements of genetic engineering will be realized in our lifetime. You will live to see this change. So where does that leave us? Well, in the future, oh my God, in the future, things get really blurry. Where we separate from robots is their cognitive ability to imagine what cannot be perceived in the real world. A robot cannot love, cannot imagine, cannot, believe in God. Will our ability to create myths and stories push us to transcend the laws of physics, the design of genetic engineering, and the power of algorithm? Will we be able to preserve our consciousness electronically, design our DNA digitally? Or will a technologically superior species emerge and Homo sapiens fight to the death as we have with Neanderthals? It's entirely possible, but no one knows. I mean, is that it? The future of the human race is what? Abject uncertainty? Honestly, yes. The future is now in our hands. The cognitive revolution did its job. It got us here. Our future now is determined by the principles we instill in our character and in science. As Abraham Lincoln once famously said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Thank you.
So is everyone having a good time?
The right is next forward.
I can't hear you. That's our spirit. So, Mr. Said, are you liking it? Nice, nice. So our next speaker, his name is Gautam Malik. He is the founder of Jaggery Bags, which essentially uses recycled items such as belts, other used clothes to make something new. He makes other gift bags and other new bags that are reusable and are very helpful towards the environment. And after this talk, we'll have another 15-minute break right outside over here. There'll be snacks and stuff, and you'll also get a chance to informally talk to the speakers, ask them any questions you have, and really engage in conversation. And yeah, and I hope you're taking notes with those notepads. Yeah, and just another note, those cookies inside the bags do contain nuts, so just a little, yeah, claim there. Yeah, and in an hour or so, we'll be providing dinner in the hop, and we hope you all come for that, as it's included in your ticket. Thank you, and please enjoy our next speaker, Gautam Malik. Here he is. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm going to be talking about how to make value out of waste. So we're talking about Barry and Swati. We're going to take two people and narrate our story through that. But before we get started, let me take you a little bit through their background. Barry is a Britisher. He's 9 years of age. Swati is Indian. She's also 9. What do you think is common between them? Other than the age, the fact that they've both led a very fulfilling life and are now retired. Yep, you heard me right. They're now retired at age 9, and they're totally dreading it. Barry and Swati in deep conversation. Barry, hey Swati, what are your retirement plans? Swati, what plans? I'm headed to the incinerator. Barry, no kidding. The way things are going, I'm pretty sure that's exactly where I'll also end up. Swati, I just don't want to go there. Barry, I don't either, but do you think I have an option? Do I have a choice? I still feel there's a lot of life left in me. Swati imagines a new kind of place. Swati ponders, what if there's a place where they take in retired folk from all walks of life and treat them like rock stars? Barry, you're kidding me. Don't be so naive. The world's a cruel place, and nothing like that really exists. Ravi joins in. A third voice from the back. Don't lose hope, you two, said Ravi, a 30-year-old Indian. Ravi continues. Our friend Samir often talks about a community exactly like the one Swati is imagining. Swati, really? Ravi, yes. Barry, who are these guys and what are they exactly about? Ravi explains. Well, there are a handful of such communities in the world. The one that I'm talking about is jaggery. Barry, jaggery like the raw sugarcane jaggery? No, not that one. Jaggery like the jaggery bags jaggery. They're like a retirement home for folk who've already led a first life. They fuse a new lease of life into old people. Swati, that sounds so cool. Tell me more about them. Ravi, sure, Swati. This is a great opportunity for me to introduce Gautam to you, the founder of Jaggery Bags. Ravi introduces Gautam. Gautam shares his background. Thanks, Ravi. Before we jump into Jaggery, I'll quickly share my background with you. I'm an architect who, over the years, has diversified into creative fields like film, design, and fashion. I'm essentially a Delhi boy from JNU who went to Pune University for his bachelor's in architecture. Like most kids growing up in the 80s and 90s in India, I too wanted to live the American dream. So, after completing my bachelor's in the US, after completing my bachelor's in India, I ended up moving to the US to pursue my master's in fine arts in design and media studies. Following this, I kind of stayed back for a few years and wanted to get some professional experience in New York. And after about a decade of exploring the New York design scene, I relocated to Gurgaon in the summer of 2010. Now, coming back to the point on hand, what exactly is jaggery? So I founded jaggery in 2015 with two other waste warriors. We see jaggery as a vision that was upcycled into a brand, a world without waste. We essentially create products with high quality upcycled materials that have already led a first life. Now I'll talk a little bit about the key attributes of jaggery. We are essentially a women-led organization that's founded on the principles of fair trade, environmental consciousness, and circular economy. We work with pre-loved materials. We work with such materials as old car seat belts, ex-army canvas, cargo lashing belts, and craft-led materials like kantha, pattu, and cane weaving, which I'm sure all of us have encountered at some point or the other. The process that we follow is such that, there's a sourcing component to our piece. We'll take the case of cargo belts and sort of expound on that and demonstrate how the process unfolds at jaggery. Once the materials are sourced and cleaned, we bring them to our workshop where they're deconstructed into products that fit into our everyday life, like laptop bags, messenger bags, mobile covers, kids' furniture like small chairs and tables. I'll talk a little bit about the idea and inspiration behind Jaggery. One of the main components is home style upcycling. You know, first, growing up in India, where we hardly wasted things in the 80s, 90s, not that that situation's changed too much now, made a lasting impression on me in my growing years. Old pickle jars would be converted into spice containers. Old curtains would be, redesigned and deconstructed into reusable shopping bags. And that's actually en vogue now. You know, you see a lot of hue and cry about people, talking about reusable bags. So that practice has actually been very prevalent in India for a while. Another important aspect was the time that I spent in Auroville, which is a sustainable community international township in South India, where people from over 50 nationalities live and work towards creating a more sustainable future. So out there, the time that I spent, we would work with locally available materials like red soil and make compressed brick blocks out of those. And those houses would, to borrow a technology that is used to bake cakes, was applied to houses. So we would make compressed mud block buildings, fill them up with dry haystack, and essentially bake the house. So this very aspect kind of stayed with me throughout my career. And it would be right to say that the spirit of experimentation got ingrained in me in Auroville. Then the time that I spent in New York working as a creative director with a Fortune 100 company really, colored my perception about, what is it that's global and what is it that's local. There are people from all countries who live in New York, and in the New York City boroughs. I think that's where the life's most important lesson was sort of unfolding on me, inadvertently. Last but not least would be the topic of climate change, which is very dear to all of us now. See, pollution levels in Delhi are breaking all records. Venice, as we know, is flooding. Maldives are sinking. Entire species of bees are being wiped away. Fashion, as it turns out, is the second most polluting industry in the world after big oil. Consider this. 200 liters of water is used to manufacture one simple t-shirt that we wear. And this is enough water to sustain one person's drinking needs for 2 years. Consider the next fact. 10,000 liters of water is used to manufacture one pair of jeans, right? That we typically just use for a season or two and then just throw it away. That is the amount of water that's needed for a family of 5 to sustain themselves for 2 years. So, bringing all these sort of disparate entities together, by now I'm sure you would have figured out that the 9-year-old Barry is essentially a cargo lashing belt. Swati is an old sari. Veteran Ravi is an old shirt, and his friend of 2 years old is an old pair of denims. With the second life that we infused into them, they're all living happily ever after. So that's pretty much the message that I wanted to leave with you. In conclusion, if you have a Jack or a George lying around at home that you're bored with, and you don't want to send him to the wasteland, you too could set up a old people's retirement home and fuse a second lease of life into them. And with that, I'd like to say thank you and happy upcycling. I don't know.
Hello. Are you guys enjoying everything? Yeah. So that was our last talk for the second section, and now we have a short break, and you can mingle, talk, socialize, have fun. This time we'll try to get everybody to exit through that entrance, that exit, so it's just easier to go outside and.
Yeah, so just to remind, this break will only last 15 minutes, and there'll be snacks and everything provided that side outside in the Foursquare area. Thank you. We hope to see you all there.